Good morning, Mr. Pretorius. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Chair. Chair, with your leave, we wish to interpose the evidence of Ms. Mashile Nkosi.
Yes.
Her evidence will not take long. It will be led by Ms. Seller and introduced by Ms. Seller.
Actually, I know that you asked if we could interpose, and I said yes, but as you speak now, it occurs to me that we should avoid interposing in the middle of a particular witness's evidence, as opposed to interposing in the sense that we are hearing evidence relating to, for example, Bosasa. But when a particular witness finishes and before we start with the next one, we interpose. But it just occurs to me that it should not be a situation where we interpose in the middle of a particular witness's evidence. Now, bearing in mind the last witness I was hearing yesterday, I understand that he would take only about 30 minutes before he finishes. I don't think there is a warrant for us to interpose before we finish with that witness. It seems to me we should finish with that witness, and then before we hear another witness relating to Bosasa, then maybe we can interpose.
Well, Chair, may I just point out that interposing, if we call witnesses of not long duration and try and fit them into the program, it's inevitable, unless a witness finishes at 4 o'clock the previous day, that interposition will be necessary. That's the first point. The second point is, on the strength of our discussion, we've made certain undertakings to this particular witness who's asked especially to be allowed to give her evidence early so she can leave. So we would have to reverse that undertaking to her.
No, that I understand, but for her to wait 30 minutes really can't make much difference.
If you could just bear with me
even if it's an hour, it really can't be a problem.
All right, she agrees.
And obviously whatever you said to her was subject to my approval.
Yes, but we did get your approval. But
yes, but that's why. No, that's why I started by saying, by acknowledging that I had given approval.
Yes.
But
well, whatever the witness agrees, Chair.
Yes, I just said that it occurs to me that let's rather finish that evidence of the other witness. It's a short time. The other point you made is a point that needs consideration. So it may well be that when we consider it, we might be inevitable that we might sometimes interpose in between. But it does occur to me that it's not an ideal situation. But any interposition is not ideal. But okay. Let's finish with that witness, the other witness, and then this current witness can then come in. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that they are aware that we won't be too long.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah,
think
okay,
I-
all right. Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mlambo, yesterday when we adjourned, you were informing the Chair about the inspection of the security equipment in the Eastern Cape province, in the Elliot area, which property you were led to by Mr. Larue.
That is correct.
You were also telling the Chair about having been granted entry into the house at which the inspection took place by a female person whom you say you found at the property.
Yes, that is correct.
And you further gave evidence around the first room at the property which you entered.
Yes.
Yes. If we can go back a bit, at paragraph 15 on page 5 of the bundle, you explained the basis upon which you entered inside the house relative to the person you say you found at the property. Can you please take the Chair through this?
We're talking now about the female person.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yeah. I introduced myself to this female person and explained the purpose of my investigation or my visit, which was the investigation of the installations by the Busasa group, and she allowed me access. She invited me in.
Yes. And you said that the first place that you went to when you entered the house was a bedroom.
Yes, as directed by Mr. Larue.
Yes. Can you remind the Chair where the room was located?
When you enter the house, if you go past the kitchen, there is a passageway on the right which I turned into, and immediately on my left-hand side was the bedroom where I was supposed to find the installations that were conducted by the special projects team.
Yes. And what did you find in this room?
In this particular room, I found the monitor, and I found the equipment which has to do with the functionality of the CCTV cameras.
Yes. And is this where Mr. Larue said the monitor and the equipment in respect thereof would be found?
That is correct, Chair.
And did you take pictures of what you found?
Yes, I took a video and I also took the pictures.
Okay. Can you then turn with me to page 36 at exhibit TPM 20? Are you there?
Yes.
What appears on that page?
It is the monitor.
Which monitor? The one that you found?
Yes, the monitor that I found and whose picture I took.
Yes. And where did you go to after the first bedroom?
I went to the next bedroom whose door was facing the passageway.
And what did you find?
Also there I found the monitor.
And when you went to this room, which was facing the passage, as you say, is this where Mr. Larue had directed you to?
It is the second room where Mr. Larue had directed me.
And did he say that you would find a monitor in that room?
He did.
Did you take pictures of what you found?
Yes, I did.
Turn with me, please, to the following page, page 37, exhibit TPM 21. What appears on that page?
It is the monitor and the small cabinet there, which has to do with the functionality of the CCTV camera.
And where did you go thereafter?
Thereafter, I left the room still in the company of the woman who was responsible for the premises, and I went out via the passage into the foyer, well, rather into the balcony, where I continued to take videos, and went out via the stairs that lead outside as I was continuing to take the video and pictures.
And on the balcony of this property, what did Mr. Larue said would be found there?
Well, he told me that there would be cameras that were installed all around the premises.
Yes. And did you find any cameras?
Yes, I did.
And where did you find them?
Basically, in every corner of the property, and also underneath the balcony, there is also another camera that is mounted there. So, just to give a picture, the house is situated on the. It's a log house or log cabinet. Well, it's a locked house, or a house made of wood. And it's basically elevated, by some logs. So that, if you're on the ground, you are able to go under the house because of the elevation by the logs.
Yes. And when you went to the balcony, who accompanied you?
The woman that I found at the premises, who was responsible for the premises, was always there with me.
Yes. And how many cameras did Mr. Larue indicate would be found on the balcony?
I do not recall precisely how many cameras, but safe to say that he did inform me that there would be cameras all over the property.
Yes. And
So-
continue? Okay. And did you take any pictures of the cameras you saw?
Yes, I had to take pictures of all the cameras that were visible.
Can you turn with me to page 31 of the bundle? And that is annexure TPM 15,
Page 30?
31.
31. I'm on page 31.
Yes. Can you explain to the chair what appears on that page?
What appears on this page is the LED light, and it's also the camera.
And is this one of the cameras that Mr. Larue had indicated would be found here?
Absolutely.
Can you then also turn with me to page 32? And that is exhibit TPM 16. Please tell the chair what appears on that page.
What appears there are two cameras.
Yes. And where are these cameras located?
These cameras are mounted on top of the wall, the wooden wall, but below the roof.
Still on the balcony.
Are they mounted on the wall, high up on the wall, but just below the roof?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Can you then turn with me to page 33, that's the page following, and that is annexure TPM 17. Please explain to the chair what appears on that page.
This is also a camera, and this is the camera that is located underneath the house.
Yes. And is this camera located where Mr. Larue had said it would be located?
That is true. That is correct.
Are there any other pictures that you took either at the balcony or of the external premises of the property?
Yes, I think if I go to subsequent pages, I took quite a few of them.
Earlier in your evidence, when I asked you what Mr. Larue had said would be on the property, you stated that he made reference to LED lights. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
And where did he say the LED lights would be located?
He said the LED light would be located, would be mounted on the wooden wall, also on top of the, high up on the wooden wall, but below the roof.
Yes. Can you please turn with me to page 30? What appears on page 30?
On page 30 is the LED light as well as the camera.
And is this the camera that Mr. Larue said would be located as you have described?
Yes.
Was there any other LED lights that you saw?
Yes, there was another LED light. On TPM 15, it's basically the same LED light as in
TPM 15 would be at page 31.
Yes, it will be page 31, but it's still the same LED light as in TPM 14.
Yes.
Yes.
But it appears to be located on the other side of the pipe. Can you explain that? From TPM 14 in comparison to TPM 15 on pages 30 and 31 respectively.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is on the other side. No, so I beg your pardon. It will be on the other side of the...
It would be a different
first
wall.
Yeah,
It
it's
will
just
be a
on the
different
side,
wall.
yes, different wall.
Yes.
Yes. And were there any other features that Mr. Larue spoke about in respect of this property?
Well, save for the LED lights and the cameras, as well as the equipment that had to do with the functionality of the CCTV cameras and the monitors, nothing else I could remember.
Yes. And was there anything else said between yourself and the person you said you found at the property?
Was there anything said?
Anything else said between yourself and the person you say you found at the property?
Well, save for the introductions, and if I do recall quite clearly, and this could be heard on the video if played, was a conversation that I had with this person, where she was basically, going around me because she didn't want to appear on the video. So we kind of had a discussion because, like I said earlier, she was always around with me everywhere I went. So there was a possibility that as I was taking the video, she would appear. So we had some kind of conversation, but I do recall as well that she asked me once more my names, which I told her, but I also said to her, look, I would still give you my details before we leave.
Yes. And what happened before you left?
Before I left, I wrote down on a piece of paper my details. In actual fact, she had a book, and to me it appears like it should have been an occurrence book. I do not remember quite in detail as to how the book looked like, but all she had was a book which for me appeared like an occurrence book. And I assume that each time they've got visitors there, as a person that is in charge of the house, she would keep record of who comes in and who goes out.
And the video that you have just referred to, would it show the images that we have just taken the chair through?
They will.
Chair, there is no need to play the video. And you say you left your details with her.
I did.
What then happened after that?
I thanked her for the help that she had provided me, and also for giving us permission to go in and for giving me permission to conduct my investigation, and then I left. She was a very amicable and a cordial person. So I thanked her, and I also asked, because from that particular premises, I was going to go to the next premise. So I asked her if she knew that if there was anybody at that particular premises, in which case she said there was somebody, but she didn't have the contact numbers of that particular person. So I went on the strength of the fact that anyway, I was going to get somebody there.
Yes.
So I thanked her and we left the premises.
You left. So throughout your interaction with this lady, Mr. Larue, as I understand, well, particularly during the inspection, was in the car.
Well, during the inspection, after I had introduced Mr. Larue and he came into the yard, the only place Mr. Larue did not go into is in the inside of the house. But as I was taking the video and the pictures in the outside of the house, Mr. Larue was there as well.
Yes. Can we then turn to paragraph 12 on page 4 of your statement? And this is the paragraph I said we would return to. In that paragraph, you make reference to documents that are attached to your statement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can we then turn to page 20 of that bundle? That is annexure TPM 12, and it runs from page 20 to 28. Is that correct? Is that correct? 22.
That is correct.
Yes. And what is this annexure TPM12?
TPM 12 is basically the invoices of a lodge where the projects team was accommodated at any given time when they were doing either maintenance or installations at Mr. Mantashe's place.
And how did you come to be in possession of these invoices?
Before going to Mr. Mantashe's first residence or to Elliot, Mr. Larue reminded me that they were actually accommodated at a lodge close by. So I decided that, look, we had time at our disposal and it would make sense for us to go there. Also, because the invoices would show the exact dates at which they were at Mr. Mantashe's place, or Minister Mantashe.
Yes. And what is the name of this lodge?
The lodge is called Intaba Lodge.
Can you please spell that for the record?
Intaba is I-N-T-A-B-A.
Yes. Please turn to page 23 of that bundle.
Well, do you want to tell us whereabouts in the Eastern Cape Intaba Lodge is?
Intaba Lodge is at Elliot. In actual fact, if you look at their logo, it does indicate Intaba Lodge, Elliot.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Can you now turn to page 23, the invoice that appears on page 23? Are you at page 23?
Page 23, yes.
Yes. You've just told the chair that the area is Elliot.
Yes.
Now, moving further down on the invoice, is there a date provided on the invoice?
The date that appears on the invoice is 2 December 2014.
Yes. And immediately after that date, is there a name of a guest there?
The name of the guest that appears there is that of Mr. Richard Larue.
Yes.
Okay, maybe before you proceed, go back to the date. The date you have given is that of departure. Please give the date of arrival at Intaba Lodge as well.
Well, Chair, if I might assist, the
Yes.
date at the top of the invoice appears to be the date of the invoice, and the date of arrival and date of departure appear
okay.
below on the document.
Oh, and the date of the invoice would be the same as the date of departure, isn't it?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, but he must just give those two dates as well, date of arrival and date of departure.
Yes, Chair.
Will you just do that, Mr. Mlambo? You can see those two dates, eh?
Yes, I can see that, Chairperson. The date of arrival of this particular guest, Mr. Larue, is 28th of November 2014, and then the departure date is the 2nd of December 2014.
Yes, and if you move a bit up on this invoice, just below the voucher number is the name of a company. What is the name of the company cited on this invoice?
The name of the company is Blake's Travel. It's written HMV, which I don't know if it's correct. Maybe supposed to read agency, but I will not provide an opinion.
Yes.
It is written Blake's Travel HMV, Pty Ltd, and the address thereof.
Yes, and what is the amount that appears on this invoice?
The amount that appears on the invoice is 2,720.
Can you go back to page 20 of the bundle? This is also one of the documents which are invoices, as you've identified. Do you confirm that in relation to this guest, that the details of the date of the invoice, the company, the date of arrival, the date of departure, and the date on the invoice are the same as those appearing at page 23? Perhaps let's take it step by step.
Yep.
The date of the invoice on page 20.
It was maybe quicker the way you were doing it because it's not going to be in dispute. If you like, you can just read here what the dates are.
Certainly,
it's not
Chair.
something in dispute here.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mlambo, on page 20, which is Annex to TPM 12, the date of the invoice is the 2nd of December 2014, and the date of the company is Blake's Travel Agency, it would seem it should be, Pty Ltd. The date of arrival is the 28th of November 2014, and the date of departure is the 2nd of December 2014. The costs that are cited on this invoice is 2,720 Rand, and these details are exactly the same as those that appear on page 23.
That is correct.
Now, do you know the guest who is cited on page 20?
On page 20, the guest that is cited there is Mr. Huma Tsepo.
Yes, do you know who that person is?
I do not know who that person is. Safe to say that I was informed by Mr. Larue that he is one of the technicians
Yes.
who forms part of the special projects team.
And on page 22,
If you want, you can do exactly the same with all
certainly,
of them.
Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. The date on that invoice is the 2nd of December 2014. The company cited is Blake's Travel Agency Pty Limited, although it's spelled as Agent B, perhaps there could be a mistake. The date of arrival is the 28th of November 2014. The date of departure is the 2nd of December 2014, and the amount on the invoice is 2,720, which is these details rather, are exactly the same as that which appear at the invoice on page 20 and on page 23.
That is correct, Chairperson.
On page 22, do you know who the guest cited there is?
The guest cited there is Pule Siduma.
And do you know who that is?
I do not know who Pule Siduma is.
Can you then turn to page 24? Do you confirm that this is also one of the invoices you've identified as forming part of TPM 12?
That is correct.
And that it is the same hotel, or lodge rather, in Elliot?
That is correct.
Do you see on this page that the details on the invoice have the company cited Blake's Travel and the letter AGENVY, Pty Ltd?
That is correct.
What is the date of arrival cited on this invoice?
The date of arrival on this particular invoice is the 25th of September 2016.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking at page 24.
I am, Chair.
Mr. Mlamba, you're looking at
Okay, I beg your
page
pardon.
24.
Okay, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
The date of arrival on page 24 is the 29th of September 2015.
And the date of departure?
The date of departure is the 1st of October 2015.
And just right at the top of the invoice, the first date that appears there, what is that date?
The date that appears there is the 25th of September 2015.
And do you know the guest who is cited on this invoice?
Cited there as the guest is Pule Siduma.
Do you know who that is?
I do not know who Pule Siduma is.
Did you have any discussion with Mr. Larue about who this could be?
I had a discussion with Mr. Larue and informed me he is one of the technicians of the special projects team.
Please then turn to the following page, on page 25. This is also one of the invoices that you've attached as Annex to TPM 12. Now, on page 25 to 27, the dates on all these three invoices appear to be the 27th of September 2016. Do you confirm that?
I do confirm that.
And again, on all these invoices, the company cited is Blake's Travel and the word AGENVY Pty Limited. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the date of arrival on all these invoices is the 25th of September 2016.
That is correct.
And the date of departure on all these invoices is the 27th of September 2016.
That is also correct.
The amount on all three invoices is 1,460.
In each case, that is correct.
Yes. Do you know the name of the guest that appears on page 25?
On page 25, the guest is Mr. Richard Larue.
And on the following page, page 26?
It is Michael Ndo.
Do you know who that is?
I do not know Mr. Michael Ndo.
And on page 27, what is the name of the guest there?
The name of the guest is Eugene Bredenkamp.
And do you know who that is?
I also do not know who Mr. Bredenkamp is.
In respect of these two guests at page 26 and 27, did you have any discussion with Mr. Larue?
I had a discussion with Mr. Larue and informed me they are also part of the team of the special projects.
Yes. Can you then turn to page 28? This is the last invoice attached as TPM 12. Do you confirm that this invoice on page 28 has the same address and that address being in Elliott?
I do confirm that.
And do you also confirm that the company being Blake's Travel appears on this invoice?
What I do see is the email address, which is A3 at...
No. Above the email address, you find a VAT number, and above that VAT number, you find a company name, not so?
Oh, you mean the lodge?
No, the company name that is cited on the document, immediately after the guest name and surname.
Oh, what I see there is Blake's Travel.
Yes. And what is the date of arrival cited on that invoice?
The date of the arrival of the guest is 15 February 2017.
And what is the date of departure?
The next day, which is the 16th of February 2017.
And do you know the name of the guest who appears on page 28?
I do not know the guest.
Thank you. Please turn to page 5 of your statement. Well, before you do, the guest who appears on page 28, did you have any discussion with Mr. Larue as to who this guest was?
I had a discussion with him, and he told me, if you look carefully, it is basically two guests.
Yes.
And Mr. Larue informed me that both guests are part of the projects team.
And below on that invoice is the amount. What is the amount written there?
The amount appearing there is 1,460.
And just before, or rather towards the left side of the amount, and in between what is written dinner, bed and breakfast.
It is written dinner, bed and breakfast, yes.
And next to that?
Again?
Next to that? Next
to that
words?
is 2 times 730 rand.
Yes. Can we then turn to paragraph 16 of your statement? In paragraph 16, you deal with another property, is that correct?
That is correct.
And on what date did you visit this site?
I did visit this particular site indeed.
On what date?
The date was the same date as that of the first premises related to Mr. Mantashe, which is the 19th of February 2019.
And can you recall at what time you visited the site?
This would have been in the morning, just after, well, it would have been approximately 12:30. 12:30, and then that's when we left the first site in Elliot. And say, give or take, would have been there, say, at about 13 hours.
Yes, and you were accompanied by Mr. Larue.
At all material times.
Now, before arriving at the property, had Mr. Larue informed you of what equipment was installed at the property?
Yes, he did.
And what did he say would be at the property?
He told me that on this particular property they had installed 2 LED lights and the equipment which had to do with the functionality thereof would have been inside the house. I do not recall exactly where he said I would find the equipment that help that work together with the CCTV light. But he did tell me that that would be inside the house.
And what other equipment, in addition to the 2 LED lights and equipment that relates to the functionality of the LED lights?
It will be the cameras,
Yes.
CCTV cameras.
You deal with this in paragraph 16 of your statement. Please tell the chair about this, starting with how you arrived at the property.
Would it have taken you about 30 minutes to travel from the first property that you went to this one?
Yeah, approximately around.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Please tell the chair about this inspection, starting with how you found the property.
Mr. Larue informed me that just like the other sites that we had visited before, that although he did not have the address or did not know the address, but he basically knew how to get there. So we drove, based on his recollection.
Yes, and did you know the address of the property?
I did not know the address of the property, neither did Mr. Larue know it.
And where is this property located?
This property is located at a place called Kala.
Can you please spell that for the record?
Kala is C-A-L-A.
Yes. And did Mr. Larue indicate who the property belongs to?
He indicated to me that that particular property is also associated with Minister Mantashe.
Yes. And did you reach this place that Mr. Larue was directing you to?
We did reach the place.
And what did you find when you arrived?
Upon arrival at the place, there was nobody. So it was a locked gate. Basically, there were 2 gates. It was a big gate and a small gate.
Yes. And what did you do when you got to the gate?
When I got to the gate, I tapped on the chain that was on the locked big gate for attention.
And was there any
In actual
response?
fact, even before I did that, I called Mr. Mandisi, the same gentleman that I had called on the first premises, for him to advise the minister that I was at the premises to come and conduct the investigation on the installations.
Yes. And what did you then do?
Unfortunately, the phone just rang and there was no reply to it. Then I tapped the gate for attention. Still there was no response from the house. And I actually shouted. I was actually fascinated because, it's one of those instances when when you've been brought up in the homelands, you would greet somebody far from you and say, "Molweni," something to that effect. So I actually shouted, for attention in that manner. So, but there was no response.
And could you see inside the yard of that
Well,
property?
yes, we could see inside the yard because, it was just an open fence like that, see-through fence where you could see easily what, the house looks like and what is visible to a naked eye.
Yes. And having not gotten a hold of Mr. Mandisi and having not had a response to you knocking at the gate, as you say, what then happened?
What then happened is realizing that the small gate was open, and inside this big yard, there were other 3 smaller properties, or 3 smaller houses. So I went in with the hope that I would find somebody, that I could talk to. But unfortunately, in all those 3 houses, there was nobody.
And did Mr. Larue go in with you?
No, Mr. Larue never got into the house.
So what
or
then?
into the yard.
Yes. What happened when you entered the yard?
Realizing that there was nobody and the stuff that I was looking for was basically visible to the naked eye, So I decided to take the opportunity of going around the property, taking the photos of the installations and also a video.
And when you were taking pictures and videos of the installations, were you doing so at the locations that Mr. Larue had indicated?
Indeed.
And where did he say these equipments would be found?
He told me the equipment, the CCTV cameras would be all around the corners of the property, and then also there would be 2 LED lights.
And did you find these cameras and the LED lights?
I did, Chairperson.
Did Mr. Larue at any point out these LED lights and the cameras?
Yes, from inside of the car.
You could see them from inside of the car?
I could see them.
And what then happened after you took the pictures and the video?
I then left the premises.
Can you turn with me to Exhibit TPM 22? And that appears on page 38 of the bundle. Can you explain to the chair what appears on that page?
What appears on this particular page is both the CCTV camera as well as the LED light.
And where is this CCTV camera and LED light located?
If you're on the street and facing the house, it will be on the right-hand side corner of the house on top.
And is it visible from outside the premises where Mr. Larue was?
It is clearly visible.
And you say he pointed it out in the car?
Yes.
Can you then turn with me to page 39? That is Exhibit TPM 23.
That is correct.
What appears on that page?
What appears on the page is another LED light.
And where is this LED light positioned?
This LED light is located on the left-hand side of the premises, which is also visible to anybody, on the street or.
Yes, and you say that Mr. Larue pointed this out from the car.
That is correct.
Can you turn to the following page, page 40, TPM 24? What appears on that page?
What appears on this particular page is a CCTV camera.
And where is it located?
This is located just above the wall, but below the roof of the right-hand side corner of the house.
And is it visible from where the car was?
Yes, it is visible.
And Mr. Larue pointed this out as well?
Yes.
Can you turn to page 41, TPM 25? What appears on that page?
What appears on this particular page would be the 2 CCTV cameras.
And where are these cameras located?
These ones are located also on top of the left-hand side of the wall of the house, but from the street. You could only see the camera that is on the right-hand side, not the one on the left-hand side.
And You say Mr. Larue pointed to some of the equipment from the car.
That is correct.
So which of these two cameras did he point to?
The one on the right-hand side.
And did he say anything in relation to the camera on the left side?
Well, he never said anything because he could not see it. So he could not point at something that he could not see. Safe to say that the cameras were all installed by the team.
And what makes you say that?
Yeah, what makes me to say that is the fact that he said that the installations were done by them, but all the point I'm making here is that in terms of pointing out at that moment, he could not point out at something that he could not see.
Yes,
That
but
is
had he ever mentioned the other camera that is not visible from the street?
Well, in relation to those that were apparent to him from the streets, he could point out. Those that were on the obscure side of the street, he could not point out.
Did he tell you about them?
He did tell me to the effect that they installed the CCTV cameras all around the property.
Yes. Can you also turn to page 42? That is TPM 26. What appears on that page?
What appears on this page is also two CCTV cameras.
And where are they located?
You see, if you're on the street and facing the property and looking at, particularly if you're on the right-hand side of the corner of the property, you can easily see the two cameras.
And did Mr. Larue point to these cameras?
He did.
Can you also turn to page 43? And that is TPM 27.
That is correct.
What appears on that page?
What appears on this particular page are also two CCTV cameras.
Yes. And where are they located?
These ones are situated diagonal opposite, rather, if you're facing these were behind the house, in the rear of the house, but facing the two directions. One facing behind the house, and then the other one facing on the side of the house, particularly the left and the right of the house.
Yes. And are they visible from the street?
These ones are not visible from the street.
So Mr. Larue could not have pointed
He
to
could
them.
not point those ones out.
Did he mention them to you?
He did mention that they installed cameras all around the property.
Yes. You then make mention of a video that was taken, and this video, does it show the pictures that we have just taken the chair through?
Definitely they do show.
Chair, there's no need to play the video.
The cameras on page 43, are those the ones that you say could not be or were not visible from the street?
Yeah, those ones are not visible from the street, Chairperson.
So what do you do in order to be able to take the picture? Did you go inside? How did you take the pictures?
Yeah, because I was inside the premises. Basically, where the house is situated, you can walk around the house.
Yes.
So because I was inside the property, and all these were accessible.
Or
from
when you took the one at page 43, you were inside the property, not in the street.
Not in the street.
Okay, all right.
Yes, you earlier said that when you arrived at the property there were two gates, and that the big gate was closed and that there was a smaller gate. Is that correct?
Yes.
You then said that you entered through the small gate
Yes.
onto the premises.
Yes.
Yes.
So the small gate was not
No, it was
locked?
not locked. It was open, Chairperson.
Yes.
Yes.
But there was nobody
Yeah,
in the
and-
premises.
If I have to remind the chair, what I had said that the purpose for going in particular, through this open small gate, was to look at any other person that would be in one of the three houses inside the premises. Because in my mind, perhaps, sometimes, I can think people can hear you only to find that they're not hearing you because perhaps they are sleeping, or whatever, or they're busy with whatever they were busy with. and they can't hear you or see you.
So you went in for that purpose, but then you didn't find.
I could not find anybody.
And then you walked around the house, the
Yes.
houses in the premises and
The
took
premises.
photos.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. What then happened after taking these pictures and the video?
What happened after I left the premises? We left the premises, and then we drove off.
Did you ever call Mr. Mandisi again?
I did not call Mr. Mandisi again.
Did Mr. Mandisi return your call?
Indeed.
And what discussion took place?
Yeah. I basically informed Mr. Mandisi as to the reasons why I had called him. Firstly, thanking him for having returned my call. And I informed him that the purpose of my call was to let him advise the minister that I was at his premises for the purposes of the investigation. And let me also remind you, Chairperson, that as far as I can recall, the minister had actually welcomed investigation when he appeared on TV at one instance, that he welcomed anybody to conduct investigation.
Yeah, but he didn't invite anybody to just go there without any prior arrangements.
Chairperson,
He didn't say anybody could just rock up in his house and start taking pictures.
Chairperson, there was no ill intention on my part, and the question could be asked, and fairly so, as to how early is early, or how prior is prior notice, you know? So...
Are you now trying to justify not giving them prior arrangements, and this has got nothing to do with him being minister, just for anybody?
No, Chairperson, I do not want to even appear to be doing that. I think that would be disingenuous of me to do that. No, I do not want to justify. I'm not justifying myself, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mlambo, you were explaining to the Chair what conversation took place between yourself and Mr. Mandisi.
Yes. So, Mr. Mandisi said to me, well, I do hear what you're saying, but I will advise the minister accordingly. But whatever the discussion that we're having, can you reduce it to writing? You know, send me a message so that I can pass it on to him. And I undertook to do that, and I sent him an SMS.
Yes. And this SMS is what is reflected at paragraph 17.
Yes, that is correct.
Could you please read that SMS into the record?
Molo Mandis, our telephone discussion a short while ago refers. As indicated to you, Mhlegazi, I tried calling you to no avail. Thank you for returning my calls. I called with the hope to let the Minister Mantashe know that I am in both premises at Kala and Elliot as part of my investigation into the security installations by Busasa. Further, to leverage on the courtesy of the Minister in opening his doors to investigators based on his media address. I found I will not mention the name of the woman that I found at Elliot.
Yes.
I found Miss X in Elliot, and she allowed me access. I left the details with her. Unfortunately, I could not find anyone in Kala. However, I took the photos of visible external installations. Please, once more, extend my gratitude to the Minister, Themba Patrick Mlambo.
And was there any response to this message?
I did not, no, I have not received any response thereto.
And was there any further interaction, be it from Mr. Mandisi or anyone in respect of the inspection and the pictures that you took in line with the inspection?
Come again?
Did you have any interaction with anyone, be it Mr. Mandisi or anyone else, in respect of the inspections that you undertook at both Elliot and Kala?
Yes, indeed.
And who did you interact with?
Firstly, I got a call from a female person who identified herself as Mrs. Mantashe.
When did you receive this call?
This was on the evening of, if I may recall,
You deal with that at paragraph 19.
yes. Yeah, this was on the 20th,
On the 20th of?
20th of February 2019.
Yes. And what did you say the person who called identified herself as Mrs. Mantashe?
Yeah, she identified herself as Mrs. Mantashe.
And what did she say to you?
She was really accusing me, and very strongly so, for having gone into her properties without her permission.
And what did you say in response?
I tried to inform her that the purpose of my investigation was the purpose of my visit was solely on investigation purposes, as well as the fact that I tried to call the minister. But she would not hear anything of that nature. She actually went on and on, accusing me. At some instance, I remember saying to her, "Ma'am, please allow me an opportunity to say what I want to say." And she told me she would not listen to anything that I wanted to say. I then said, "Well, ma'am, it's fine. I'll wait you. I'll wait you to talk and finish, and then when you're ready for me to talk, to you, please allow me to do that." So she hung up on me after, verbal, attack, which, understanding that she was upset, I apologized for the fact that she was upset about me doing my work.
Did she say that she was upset about you doing your work?
Well, I apologized for the fact that, she was upset. That was what I was apologizing for. And the fact that, look, I was basically doing my work, there was no ill intention on my part.
And did you speak to anyone else regarding your inspection at Elliot and Dala?
During my conversation with Mrs. Mantashe, there was a call that, I could hear my phone beeping because it looked like there was someone calling me. So just after we finished talking with Mrs. Mantashe, I saw a message saying something to the effect that please call me Mantashe. But then immediately after, there was a call that came in, and it was from Mr. Mantashe himself.
And how do you know that it was Mr. Mantashe himself?
I've heard Mr. Mantashe quite a number of times talking. Well, in one meeting that I attended where he was present, but also on many occasions, Mr. Mantashe has been on TV talking. So he's got a unique voice to me, which is distinguishable from any other voice. So I knew right from the call that it was indeed Mr. Mantashe.
And what did he say to you?
Like Mrs. Mantashe, he also, attacked me, and maybe attack would be too strong a word, but he extended his unhappiness at my going to his premises without notifying him. So, and what is common that he said, which Mrs. Mantashe also said, was that now they had to fire the woman that let me into the property, the woman that was responsible for the property at the first premise, because she allowed me to go in. So, and I was, pleading with them to say, look, I don't know if I'm qualified, but, please do not fire her. I don't think she also had any bad intention. But, well, look, it was not my place to tell them what to do. But both of them indicated that as a result of her allowing me and giving me access to the property, they were going to fire her, or they had fired her.
Yes. And was there any other further interaction in respect of the inspection at Elliot and Kala?
Not from the two of them, at least.
Yes. And the detail that you've just given to the chair, you have provided in your statement at paragraph 19 and 20.
Yes, I have.
At paragraph 18, you deal with another property that was inspected. Please tell the chair about this property.
Chairperson, in terms of the plan on this particular investigation, I had planned to, amongst other places, visit and do site inspection on the property that is associated with Miss Duduzile Mieni.
And how did you know that the property is associated with Ms. Dudumieni?
How I got to know that it was associated with her was the fact that after I had come back from investigation and had obtained the address and contacted my search team and we did property search, and I realized that that particular property was associated with Mrs. Mieni.
Yes, but before that investigation, did you ever speak to Mr. Larue? Or rather, did Mr. Larue ever tell you who the property belonged to?
He did inform me that that property was associated with Miss Mieni.
And what did he say was installed at the property?
What he said they installed in the property was the electric fence, the beams, the CCTV cameras, and I do recall that I think something that had to do with the equipment that was inside the house as well. I can't remember what that particular equipment was. Safe to say that it also had to do with the functioning of the particular cameras, the beams, as well as the CCTV camera.
Yes. And on what date was this visit scheduled?
This visit was scheduled for the 21st. Yeah, it was scheduled for the 21st of February 2019.
And in which area is the property located?
This property is in Richards Bay, KZN.
Now, at paragraph 18, you relay events that took place on the 20th of February 2019. Please explain this to the chair.
Chairperson, like I just said a while ago, the intended site inspection was intended for the 21st of February 2019. But on this day, on the 20th, when we arrived, remember, that very day I had left KZN and I flew to Joburg. From Joburg, I flew to KZN. Now, upon arrival at KZN, at Richards Bay to be specific, on our way to the hotel, I had a discussion with Mr. Larue, who informed me that he could not recall exactly how to go to the property that we had intended to visit the next day. But I said, well, look, we agreed that that being the case, so that we don't waste time the next day when we go there, maybe we should drive around so that he could recall exactly how to get there. Indeed, I took the car from the airport. We drove in the area. You know, we took a few turns that he could recall, and ultimately we could spot the house. And it was easy to spot the house for him, at least because immediately, you know, when we approached the particular house, we could immediately see the cameras installed as well as the electric fence on the property, which he said was the property that we were supposed to visit. So I took down the street address. So at that instance, I did not take any video or camera or shots of the installations. because that was the work that we had intended to do the next day on the 21st.
And the cameras that you say Mr. Larue could see, from where could he see the equipment?
You could see the equipment from basically from the two sides of the street. On the main road, it is a corner property, Chairperson. So from the two streets that that meet, you can see the one side of the house and the other side. So only from the two sides of the street you could see the property, the installations.
And you say that Mr. Larue saw the cameras. Did he point them out to you as cameras that he installed?
He did. In actual fact, as soon as we approached the property, he said, no, there it is. I can even see the cameras there. Even before we got to the actual property, just by approaching this on the street, you could immediately see the cameras.
Yes. What did you then do after that?
After that, we left the place because already now we knew what house we wanted to go to.
Yes. And did you have any interaction with anyone except Mr. Larue in respect of what was said to be Ms. Dudumieni's property?
No.
Did you ever speak to Ms. Muyeni at any point?
Yes. On the evening of the 20th, after I'd spoken to Mr. and Mrs. Mantashe, and having, absorbed the criticisms that they had leveled against me, then I thought it prudent to maybe make a call to Ms. Muyeni and advise her on the intended visit the next day.
And what did Ms. Muyeni say?
I first introduced myself, and we spoke quite well, up until I indicated that I was the investigator with the State Capture Commission. Then she went like house on fire, accusing me of being unprofessional by calling her in the evening, and also the fact that she had a husband and she had children. She can't be called at night. In which case, I apologize for calling her at night. But really, the intention of my call at that point in time was really to say, ma'am, I'm on investigation and I intend coming to your property tomorrow. Will there be someone? So, but unfortunately, she really reprimanded me strongly and informed me that she would not have her property taken photos of, and whatever I wanted to do, I should send her an email and request permission. So.
And did you send her an email?
I did send her an email.
And what did she say you should indicate in the email? You say that she said.
Well, she said I
spoke
must state the reasons why I wanted to come into her property, and basically request permission, So I did exactly that. I sent an email to that effect, and
Was that during the same evening?
No. That was the next day, on the 21st of February 2019, because when we spoke in the evening, she would not even let me finish, what I wanted to say. In which case, I accepted, and I indicated that I would call in the morning. So in the morning of the 21st, I think it was just after 9, if I'm correct. If I may refer, Chairperson.
You deal with that at paragraph 23 of the statement.
Yes, yeah. At 8:59 a.m., according to my watch at the time, on the 21st of February, that's when I called Ms. Muyeni.
And you say that she said that you must send her an email.
Yes.
Was the email to be directed to anyone else?
Well, she gave me two email addresses, Chairperson. The first being that of her attorneys, and then the second one being a personal email. And I sent an email to both of those addresses she had provided me, stating exactly what the intention of my visit was.
And what did you state to be the intention of the visit?
I stated that I was intending to visit and to do investigation on the installations that were purportedly have been conducted by the Special Teams Project of Lusasa.
And was there any response to that email?
There was a response to that email, Chairperson, and what I found to be, if I may put it that way, out of order, was that instead of dealing with the permission of allowing me in or not allowing me into her property, she started asking me about my investigations, about, who else, I was investigating and stuff like that, something to that effect. And I found that to be out of order and very intrusive. So I would not respond to that because, in my opinion, at least because she had provided me with the contact numbers of her attorneys, that if there was a problem, maybe the attorneys were the ones that were supposed to interact with me. So I thought it prudent to leave the matter, not to respond to that particular one, because I thought it was best to be dealt with by the legal team.
In paragraph 24, you speak
Did you
of...
hand it over to the Commission's legal team to deal with?
Yeah, what happened is, Chairperson, in my interaction with her, I copied, if I do recall, Advocate Norman, as well as my supervisor, being Mr. Frank Dutton.
But did you ask the legal team to advise what the response should be or to respond to her email?
Chairperson, I think it was an oversight on my part, based on the fact that I had copied Advocate Norman in that. So, but I never made a follow-up. So I must admit then it must have been an oversight on my part to continue not to respond to her email, because maybe I assumed that if there was an issue that would arise from Ms. Miani's attorneys, they would direct it to the Commission legal team. So it was an oversight on my part.
So she sent you a response to your email, and in the response she didn't say whether she was granting permission or refusing permission for you to visit her property. In her response, she informed me that the permission was going to be subject to her receiving my response to the questions that now were not dealing with the actual access, but dealing with, my investigation, which I thought, is something that I could not do, to share the investigation, into other people's. You mentioned something about her attorneys. Did she give you the names and contact details of her attorneys in that email?
She did.
Or did she say why you should contact them? Was it because they were to deal with further communication or what?
Well, Chairperson, when I spoke to her, she gave me 2 contact emails, which is her personal email as well as that of her attorneys. So when I wrote that email requesting access, I addressed it to both emails.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And did you conduct any investigation to establish who the property belonged to?
I did that, Chairperson.
I think you already covered that, yeah.
Now, earlier when, in fact yesterday, you had directed the Chair to paragraph 25 of your statement, which you said was incomplete.
Oh, well, before that, let's finish about your visit to Ms. Miani's property. You spoke to her in the evening, and you sent her an email on the morning of the 21st.
That is correct, Chairperson.
Before you left the area, did you take any pictures of the cameras that you could see from the street?
I did not do that, Chairperson, because she had said that she would consider that to be invasion to her privacy.
Yes, but did you say that Mr. Larue had confirmed that the cameras that could be seen from the street were cameras that had been installed by the special project team from Busasa.
Yeah, that is what Mr. Larue informed me, and as he was pointing out at those cameras.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chair. At paragraph 25 of your statement, you had drawn the Chair's attention to page 8, where you said that paragraph 25 was incomplete.
That is
Well,
correct.
You remember he did tell us what should go in there. We
Indeed,
don't
so,
have to
Chair.
repeat it.
And the email correspondence between yourself and Ms. Mieni is not attached to this bundle. Do you confirm that?
I do confirm that.
Chair, that can be dealt with by way of supplementary. Chair, unless there are any other further questions, that is the evidence of Mr. Mlambo.
Thank you very much. So around about what time or what day did you leave the area where Ms. Mieni's property is? Did you leave on the 21st? Or did you leave some other time?
I never went there on the 21st. I only went
but
there.
you were in the area, isn't it?
Yes, I was in the
Did you
area.
spend the night in the area?
Yes.
Yes. And did you leave on the 21st to go back to Joburg or whatever?
Yes, I left on the 21st.
Okay.
In actual fact, I was waiting all morning
For the response.
for a response, but then I had a flight to take,
Yeah,
and so with that limitation,
yeah.
I had to leave.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mlambo. You are excused. If a need arises, you are with the Commission's investigators. You can be called back. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. We should take the short adjournment. On my watch, it's 19 minutes past 11. Let's resume at 25 to 12. We adjourn. Thank
you, Chair. Chair, we beg leave to interpose and introduce the evidence of Ms. Daphne Mashilenkosi.
Yes.
I must state for the record that Ms. Mashilenkosi is not testifying on any aspect as regards Busasa.
Yes.
The Chair will recall that Ms. Mabel Feiki-Mento during her testimony referred to conversations she had had with Ms. Mashilenkosi, and it is on that aspect that Ms. Mashilenkosi appears before you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. If the witness may be sworn in.
Yes, Registrar, please do that.
Please state your full names for the record.
My name is Daphne Mashile Mugosi.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No,
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
yes it is.
Do you swear that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, Chair. Chair,
Thank
you will recall that during Ms. Mngabadeli's appearance, we submitted Exhibit D8. Exhibit D8 contains two documents. The first was a statement by Ms. Mngabadeli, and the second part of D8 is a statement which is supposed to be by Ms. Mashilenkosi.
Yes.
Ms. Mashilenkosi, you have next to you a little bundle marked Exhibit D8. Now, if you flip through that bundle halfway through, you'll find an index to D8 bracket B, Daphne Mashilenkosi. Have you located it? Do you confirm that that is the statement you have made to this commission?
Yes, I do.
And if you refer to page DMN03 of that statement, do you confirm that's your signature and that it was appended on the 23rd day of November 2018?
Yes, it is my signature.
Chair, just to locate Ms. Mashilenkosi's evidence, the Chair will recall that Mrs. Mento, and for the record, referred to 3 distinct telephone calls she had made to Ms. Daphne Mashilenkosi on the day that she was offered the position of Minister of Public Enterprises by the Gupta family. And these will be in paragraph 70, 84, and 100 of her statement. She further, though, during oral testimony, indicated that she had made a 4th phone call to Ms. Mashilenkosi, in particular on that day in October, on the date of the reshuffle, and that would be the 31st of October 2010. It is in respect to these 4 telephone conversations that Ms. Mashilenkosi is going to testify today.
Thank you.
Before we do so, could you tell the Chair briefly what it is you do currently?
My name is Daphne Nkosi, as I indicated. I'm a miner. I own a mining company called Kalahari Mining. I started in 2001. But before that, I started a company called Larue, which was a scissor coal from 1998. We mine coal. It's listed on the JSE, New York Stock Exchange, Australian Stock Exchange, and the London Stock Exchange. In Kalahari, I started with my late husband in 2001, and I still own 80% of the company, and the 20% is owned by the Industrial Development Corporation. So I am a miner.
Thank you. And just for the record, by miner, for the transcribers, it's M-I-N-E-R. You state in your statement that you were an activist from around 1986. Could you provide the Chair with a brief expose of that period and what you did at the time?
Thank you very much, Madam. I am class of 76. I've been a young activist all my life. I was part of the Soweto Student Representative Council that planned June 16 on the 13th of June. I was elected there. And I've been an activist since up until today. And my activism started then up until I went to prison in terms of Section 6 of the Terrorism Act, up until the introduction of the Internal Security Act of 1981, where there was a lot of detentions and repression in South Africa, and therefore I was responsible for awareness programs and support for those parents and families that had their children in prison, or those that actually came from 1976, most of them, the majority of which were in my Student Representative Council, were sentenced and convicted and sent to Roman Island for 5 years. When they came back, we had the responsibility of starting NGOs that would support them. One of those NGOs was the Detainees Aid Movement in Soweto and the Detainees Parent Support Committee in Johannesburg, which was as a result of a lot of white students who were NUSAS members at the time, were arrested, and therefore their parents felt that it important to actually form this organization so that we can support detainees. As a result of that, I was responsible, I was the national coordinator of all detainees in South Africa. So anyone and everyone who was detained between the years of 1976 up until 1990 would have actually come through my office or my interventions in terms of support, whether it's welfare, whether it's appointing lawyers for them, whether it's moral support and material at some point.
And you deal with this in your statement. When did you meet Ms. Mento for the first time and under what circumstances?
I met Ms. Mento when we were informed that there was the youngest detainee that has been moved from the Northern Cape to Sun City at the time, because most of the young COSA students were actually kept at Sun City between 1986 to 1988. And because we were more concerned and I was responsible for children repression and the law in apartheid South Africa conference that was held in Zimbabwe, we're actually trying to get information in terms of the number of children that were actually in detention, and he was one of those that were underage at the time, that were sitting at Sun City when he was actually transferred from the Northern Cape into Sun City, which is the Johannesburg prison. So there were very few of those, and I remember very well, it was her and a lady called Debra Marakalla from Tembisa and a 12-year-old from Krugersdorp, of which I can no longer recall the name.
Having met Ms. Mento at that time, did you maintain a relationship with her? Have you maintained a relationship with her since?
I maintained that relationship, fought for the rights, for her to get support, for her to get visits. But when he was released as well, we continued the relationship up until I met her when we started the Women's Development Bank, of which I'm the chairman of the Women's Development Bank Investment Company since inception from 1998 up until today. The responsibility at the time was to start a village bank for women to actually get funding so that they can start income generating projects from an NGO point of view. Come 1994, when they all went into parliament, we continued that relationship, because relationships that were built on difficulties are lasting relationships, and I've kept most of them. And in 1993, in preparation for, in fact, just after 1994, we actually, as the women of South Africa, under the auspices of the National Coalition of Women, we took a tour of Tunisia and Chile to look at poverty programs on how we can actually improve our country. So my relationship continued even when she was in parliament, and each time she would come to Johannesburg, she knew that she could stay at my house at any given time, whether I'm there or not.
And she knowing that, do you have a sense, can you give us a sense of how many times she actually stayed in your house during her visit in Johannesburg?
She has been to my house so many times, so I can't even count, because in some instances she would be at my house when I was not there. But my children, people who work for me, my husband, when he was still alive, they knew that she was welcome at her house, simply because of the relationship and the manner of that relationship and how deep that relationship was at the time that she was displaced in the Northern Cape, and she actually stayed at my mom's house in Soweto, even after in Naledi, Soweto, even after she was actually released from prison.
Do you consider her a friend?
I consider her more than a friend. She's more of a younger sister to me.
Now, at page DMN 02 of your statement, at paragraph 6, you actually quote the references I gave from this mental statement regarding the telephone calls she made on the day. You see that?
Yes, okay.
The question is, do you have a recollection of she lists in paragraph 70, 84, or 100?
I think my relationship with Bank is that, I mean, I can't even recall how many calls he's made to me, how many times he's been to my house. The conversations we've had over many. Frustrations, I would, get a call, and I will call and give advice if I have to, or discussions. But I can never pinpoint any call that you would have made to me specifically to say she called on this particular day and said this. I wouldn't recall at all.
Now, this is in reference to the call she made from the Buddha residence. I was unable to let her know the address and simply told her I was brought to a strange house to apparently wait for the president. End of quote. Looking back, such a conversation where she expressed a concern about as regards her whereabouts at any given point.
I mean, looking back, and I wouldn't think that there's concern, because if someone is called by their president from the same party, their comrades, you wouldn't be worried even if they're taken to a venue, particularly if it's a president, because we know, I think, that people are called in the middle of the night, in places where, they don't know, simply because we are of the view, we are outside, remember, of the structure. What the president's security arrangements, we would never know. So if he says, I'm in a strange place, you excited probably, I don't know, I would have been probably excited that he was going to be appointed or whatever. If you are called by a president, there are two things. It's either you're going to be fired or you're going to be appointed. That's my view.
But you personally have never had reason at the time to be concerned about your well-being?
No, I would never have had concern. I would be either excited or, probably worried that she's going to be fired, but knowing her, how intelligent she is, because she's a teacher, she teaches maths and science, and I know I've interacted with her, and, it would have been on the positive side rather than the negative.
Now, in your statement, you deal with her allegations that she had these conversations with you. You state that you don't have a recollection for the reasons that you put forward. Do you take issue with her allegations in that regard, that she had these conversations with you?
I wouldn't. She talks to me on anything, on her children, on everything and anything, on her house, on, I wouldn't have an issue with that, because she does call me from time to time. I talk to her well-being. I mean, yeah, it's important to me.
Now, you list in your statement other circumstances that you faced at the time that compound your inability to recall directly these conversations. Would you like to share them with the chair?
I think at the time, probably I was running my own business, number one. Number two, I had lost my husband. Number three, my company, I think I'm the only person in South Africa that had his company, or her company actually hijacked. My company was hijacked by 8 people, 7 of which were state president patients who were declared, some of them criminally insane. And therefore I had to go to court to prove that I am who I am and that this is my company. Number two, I had to court and sue the CIPC at the time. And Number three, I still had to continue to sue government because my husband died in a hospital. And I was of the view at the time, and still am, that it was negligence and I was suing. So I had all sorts of other problems. But also, when you get a call from Vicky, it's not like you sit and you listen, you say this is what she's going to, whether I'm in the office, I'll pick up the call because she's my sister. If I know maybe she wants to tell me something, and that's it. So I had all sorts of problems, and I would never recall a specific conversations. I would be more worried about the things that people don't know, that she talks to me, that probably, people don't even know, that are more important than just this conversation. So for me, if she says I'm in trouble, for instance, the only time that Faithy has never slept at my house, it was when she was appearing in the commission, because she did say the commission wants me to stay in a hotel. And she told me so. She said, my sister, I apologize, I'm not coming. So she stays at my house, so there are no issues. There's nothing untoward, the discussions that we've had. So yeah, and that's how, you never memorize and think that, 10 years or 9 years down the line, there'll be an issue that wants you to talk about it. So I can't really lie and say I remember specifically. And I can't also say that I was concerned. I was not concerned at all.
So then, if I may summarize your evidence, you understand Ms. Mentor's allegations about conversations she had with you telephonically, you do not recall them, but you will not deny or take issue with her evidence in that regard. You won't deny that issue.
I will not deny or take issue because I think I know Faithy more than a lot of people. I know who she is, I know her capabilities, and I have no reason to actually doubt what she says.
Thank you. Chair, unless you have any questions.
This was something that happened a long time ago, in 2010. So it's quite understandable if one can't remember things that happened a long time ago. However, at a certain stage, she did go public and said that she had been taken to the Gupta residence, and that at the Gupta residence, somebody from the Gupta family, I think she said Mr. Ajay Gupta, offered her the position of being Minister of Public Enterprises if she would be prepared to, I think, terminate a certain route for SAA from Johannesburg to India. And subsequent to that, that story, as well as that of Mr. Jonas, became quite big in the whole country. You do remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Now, if I recall correctly from her evidence, she came out publicly about this in 2015 or 2016, I can't remember. The question that I would want to ask you is whether, when you became aware of what she was saying when she came out publicly, the two of you ever discussed that issue?
Thank you, Chair. We did not, because at the time she came out, I had a sick child, a 19-year-old who had cancer, who subsequently died in November 2016. So, but also, probably, on hindsight, I would have actually, looked at it differently. If I was anybody or any politician, being an activist all my life, I know that individuals don't appoint people. They might have an influence, but they actually don't. At the end of the day, it's the prerogative of the president to actually appoint you or not. So for me, yes, I saw that. Yes, I saw what Jonas said. I've been following the commission. Yeah, I have not, because at the time, I also did not want to interfere in trying to convince her otherwise. Probably I would have said, could have done it differently, I'm not sure, but I didn't want to interfere with that process as well.
You might not have, the two of you might not have discussed the issue immediately after she went public.
Yeah.
But did you at any stage between then and now, did the two of you discuss the issue?
No, she actually called me and told me that she was going to the commission. She's made a statement, and in the statement, she had referred to the fact that she has spoken to me. And she told me, I think a week before she actually was coming to actually testify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that for the first time, when she came for the first time last year, or when she came second
when
time?
She came for the first time last year.
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
Since then, she has not slept at my house, and until she finished this year with the commission.
Yes. So is my understanding of your evidence then correct that this particular issue, that this thing happened to her, was never discussed at all between the two of you before this commission was established? Maybe I should say that.
I think...
as far as you can recall.
As far as I can recall, if you would go to Facebook, for instance, and I follow her, I mean, we talk on Facebook, she's well documented in terms of some of those things, and therefore, you know, but I don't interfere with that. If I wanted clarification, I would make a call. I mean, I have her number, so, yeah.
But the bottom line is that it has never featured in your discussion between the two of you, or before this commission at least was established. Then we can talk about after whether it did.
It doesn't.
Yes.
It talks about family. It talks about her siblings who died, who's not well, and so on. It talks about my own pain. It talks about my own children. It talks my own grandchildren, and so many other things. I mean, we have a long-term relationship that has become family. So we never actually sit down. We do talk about everything and anything, including politics, where the country's going, like everybody else, I think, South Africans. And yeah, we don't specifically hone into things that, I was of the view that she's not worried about whatever she said, and therefore I let it like that because she was quite comfortable. So there was no reason for us to actually continue discussing something that we know it's there, it's out there, it's in the public domain. Yeah.
Well, I would have expected that in the light of the close relationship that the two of you have and have had over a very long time, and you said that she is more than a sister, a friend to you, you know, she's like your little sister. I would have thought that the issue, that she would have raised the issue with you as soon as she got an opportunity, because when she gave evidence, it was quite clear, and I think she said so herself, that she was very upset that Mr. Ajay Gupta made this offer to her, an offer that could only be made to her by the president. Well, my recollection is that she was unhappy that she was taken to the Gupta residence in the first place, because she was under the impression that she was going to be taken either to union buildings or to the president's official residence. But she ended up in the Gupta residence. And then while she was there, and she testified that she was made to wait for a long time, and she was complaining as to when she was going to meet the president. Then she was made this offer. She says she was very upset, and she stood up in the room where she was with Mr. Ajay Gupta, and in effect protested. She said she might not have used the word hysterical, but she was really upset. And she said while she was expressing how she felt about this offer being made, the former president emerged from one of the rooms and sought to calm her down and walked her to the car before she was taken to the airport. So, and my understanding of her evidence is that this thing really upset her. She took serious objection to it. And she said she spoke about it to Mr. Dennis Bloom, who has come forward and testified that indeed she did speak to her about it. And she said she did speak to Ms. Mkabateli, who was with her in Parliament at some stage. And Ms. Mkabateli has come forward to give evidence. She had no recollection of the conversation. But I would have thought that at some stage, when you heard what had happened, that maybe this would also have been something of concern to you, and you would have said to her, but whatever you call her, my little sister or my friend, how come you never told me about something like this? And then maybe she would say, no, but I actually did tell you. And then you might say, well, I don't remember. Then the two of you would have discussed more.
Well, I think conversations of different people, they react differently. And at the time, there were other things that were bothering her that were of concern to me.
Yes.
I was more interested in her well-being.
Yes.
Whether she was upset or not, that was not an issue.
Yes.
The issue was what do we do about it for her own sanity. And that's the support that I actually gave.
Yes.
There are things that I recommended and I actually told her to do so that she can take a break from the media and so on. So, I've done those things that are not in the public domain.
Yes.
But in terms of how you I wouldn't have done that.
Yes.
Let the other people do it. I would do what sisters would do, is to comfort, to give moral support where I can, and that's what I do.
Yes.
And I do best. The other things, no, I actually don't.
Yes, thank you. Anything arising?
No, thank you, Chair. I think it is clarified.
Thank you, Ms. Mashilenkosi, for coming. You are excused. Thank you very much.
Chair.
Chair, with your permission, may we take leave?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, the next witness is Mr. Larue. We return to the Bosasa series of witnesses.
Yes.
He will be led by Ms. Mandela.
Thank you. Ms. Mandela.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, may the witness be sworn in.
Please administer the oath of affirmation. I think it was the oath last time.
Please state your full names for the record.
Richard Larue.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No, I don't.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
I do.
Do you swear that the evidence that you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Larue. Thank you for coming back.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, might I request that bundle T11 also be placed before the witness?
Well, you should have made those arrangements. Somebody can just arrange for somebody to put it before him.
My apologies, Chair.
So what exhibit is that one?
The exhibit that has just been handed to Mr. Larue is exhibit T11. That is the exhibit that deals with Mr. Mlambo's evidence. We will also be dealing with exhibit
Well,
T12.
I don't seem to have T11 here. I've got T12, Mr. Larue's affidavit. And I've got exhibit S11, not T. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Larue, please refer to the bundle marked T12 that is before you. Can you confirm that what appears on page 1 to 4 of that bundle is your statement to the Commission?
Correct.
And on page 3 of that bundle, is that your signature appearing there?
Correct.
Still staying on page 3, the date of the 31st of March 2019, is that the date on which you signed the statement?
Hang on, Ms. Mlefe. On which exhibit were you asking him questions just now?
On T12, Chair.
Okay. Yes, as just confirmed that the signature on page 3 is his signature and that this is his affidavit.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
And Mr. Larue, do you confirm the correctness of your statement?
That's correct.
Thank you. Can you then turn to page 1 of that bundle? In paragraph 3 of the statement, you refer to evidence that you have previously given to the Commission, and this being in relation to some of the locations where special projects, as you have referred to them in evidence, were undertaken.
That is correct.
And you say there that you were accompanied by Mr. Mlambo.
That is correct.
You further state that you were involved in the procurement of equipment as well as installations of same.
That is correct.
And you have previously given this evidence.
That is correct.
You have also previously testified to having returned to all the properties at least more than once.
That is correct.
And in this respect, you testified that the first visit would be to conduct a survey of the premises.
A site survey would be conducted, yes, Chair.
And that the second visit would be to install the equipment.
To install the equipment, yes, Chair.
And you further stated previously in your evidence that you and the special projects team would sometimes return to the properties after the installations.
To do maintenance, yes, Chair.
And so you would have been at these properties at least twice.
Yes.
Still on page 1, at paragraph 5, you also repeat what you have given in oral evidence, and in this respect, you state that you would obtain a quote of the required equipment and thereafter send same to Mr. Angela Agrizzi.
I would obtain the quotes after doing the site survey. I would take the quotes to Angela Agrizzi for signature and discuss it with the relevant director. And then it would be taken to Jacques van Zyl for the money to be paid for the supplies.
Yes, on page 2, at the top of that page where paragraph 5 continues, you also say there that you would then send the quote to Mr. Agrizzi and the representatives of BASASA.
That is correct.
Would the representatives of BASASA be the relevant directors?
The relevant director that actually asked me to do the special project, that's correct.
Yes. And at paragraph 6, you again emphasize that there would be no installation and or purchase of equipment without prior approval being obtained.
That is correct. When Mr. Watson instructed me from the word go that if Angelo's signature was not on any of the documentation, nothing would be paid to the suppliers at the end of the day.
Yes.
I'm sorry, just repeat that.
After we obtained the quotes and things like that, Chair, what Mr. Watson would say is, or he emphasized it on more than one occasion, that if Angelo's signature is not on the paperwork, nothing would be
Mr. Agrizi's signature.
Mr. Agrizi, sorry, sir.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Larue, at paragraph 7 of your statement, you start to deal with the properties that were visited.
That is correct.
And the purpose was for a pointing out exercise.
That is correct.
And this was of the security equipment that you and your team, the special projects team, installed.
That is correct, Chair.
And for the purpose of all these inspections, were you accompanied by Mr. Patrick Mlambo, an
Yes.
investigator appointed as such by the Commission?
Yes, I was, Chair.
Mr. Mlambo has given evidence that this inspection took place from the 17th of February 2019 to the 20th of February 2019. Is this true?
That is correct.
Mr. Mlambo further gave evidence that neither yourself nor did he, nor him rather, had the address details such as the street numbers and house numbers of the properties where you would be conducting inspections.
That is correct. Even in my first statement, I said that I could never remember the addresses, but I could remember exactly where the properties were.
Yes. And Mr. Mlambo has also given evidence that you directed him to all the properties.
That is correct.
At paragraph 7 of your statement, you deal with a property that you visited with Mr. Mlambo. Where did this inspection take place?
Colchester.
And how did you get to the property?
We drove there from East London,
And how long did that take?
approximately 3 hours.
And prior to visiting the property, had you informed Mr. Mlambo who the property belonged to?
I did on the way there. I informed him that it belonged to Mr. Richmond Imti.
And Mr. Mlambo has also testified that prior to every visit, you had informed him of what equipment was installed at the particular premises.
That is correct. We were just chatting in the car and he would say to me, what would we find there? And I explained to him what he would find on the various sites.
And is this in respect of every property that you went to?
Every property, yes.
Yes. And the property that you say belongs to Mr. MT, what is the date on which you went to that property?
On the 17th.
And what equipment did you identify
The electric
at the
fence.
property?
The electric fence and the perimeter lighting. I could not identify the energizer that was in the garage because the house was locked up.
Yes. And when you arrived at the property, what happened?
When we arrived at the property, Mr. Mlambo blew the hooter. Well, firstly, when we got to we couldn't get into the property because they had a security gate in the front of the residential estate. When we were last there, it was open, free houses standing. You could just drive straight to the house. We went to I think he's the caretaker of the premises, and he said, "We'll go to the gate and he'll buzz us in," which he did. Then we drove straight to the property. Mr. Mlambo blew the hooter, and nobody answered. He knocked on the gate, nobody answered still, but you could clearly see there was nobody home.
Yes. And then what happened?
We then exited the vehicle, and he asked me what, and I explained to him that's what the electric fence looks like. I showed him the poles and everything that was around the house, and I pointed out the lighting to him, and he said to me, "Well, I'm going to take a couple of photos and a video of the site," and then we left.
And have you seen the pictures that Mr. Mlambo took?
I did not see the pictures, no.
Can I then refer you to Exhibit T11 that is before you? Can you turn to page 9 of that bundle? That is annexure TPM1. Are you there, Mr. Larue?
Yes, I am, sorry.
Can you please tell the Chair what appears on that page?
It's the front of the house, Chair.
The house that you visited on the 17th of February 2019.
That's correct, Chair.
And from this image, can you please tell the Chair what you pointed out to Mr. Mlambo?
The electric fence on the gate, and the perimeter light that was on the right-hand side by the, on the left-hand side there. You can't really see it in this picture.
Yes. And on the following page, page 10, appears annexure TPM2. What is on that page?
That is the light that I pointed out to you when we were standing in front of the gate.
Can you describe where the light is situated?
It's situated on the left-hand side of the building, underneath the roof.
And on the following page, page 11, annexure TPM3, can you explain to the Chair what that is?
That's the back of the house, Chair. There is a square light on the far left-hand corner, just underneath the roof there, which was an old existing light. The one in the middle is the LED light that we installed.
And the electric fence that appears on page 10 and 9, which you say you pointed out to Mr. Mlambo, is there any particular distinguishing feature that where one could establish who installed the fences?
The electric fence doesn't have any serialized item or number on it or anything like that, Chair. But from my recollection, it's exactly the way we installed it. Whether the client had it taken down and reinstalled, you would clearly see that if the poles were taken down and new poles would be stuck up, you would clearly see that another installation taking place. So to my recollection, nothing was moved or removed. It is as we installed it back then.
Yes. And was there any other equipment in that property, or rather inside that property, that you had spoken with Mr. Mlambo about?
The only piece of equipment, like I said, was the energizer, Chair, which we could not get access to so that Mr. Mlambo could see exactly where I pointed out, because I did point out to him. I said, if you go into the garage, it'll be on the left-hand side. As you come into the door it's a door leading from the garage into the main house. It is right next to that door. And he could not see that, obviously, because it was locked.
Yes. And what did you then do after Mr. Mlambo took these pictures that you have described to the Chair?
We then left the premises and we returned back to East London.
So you never entered the premises?
No, we didn't.
And were the pictures taken from outside the premises?
It was, yes.
In your presence?
Yes.
At paragraph 8 of your statement, which is annexure T12, you then speak of another visit that took place on the 18th of February 2019. Is that true?
That is correct.
Where did this inspection take place?
In Green Bushes, Chair.
And how did you get to Green Bush?
We drove from East London to the premises. I got a little bit lost, but I eventually found my way and navigated Mr. Mlambo to them. And
prior to visiting the property, had you informed Mr. Mlambo who the property belonged to?
I did, Chair.
And who did you say it belonged to?
Richmond MT.
And had you also informed Mr. Mlambo what equipment was installed at the property?
I did inform him before we arrived there. I said to him that there would be 2 perimeter lights and electric fencing, a 21-strand electric fence.
Yes. You say that you directed Mr. Mlambo to the property.
That is correct.
And what did you see when you arrived at the property?
When we arrived at the property, there's 2 gates. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. The gate on the left was wide open.
Yes. What then happened when you arrived at the gate?
Mr. Mlambo blew the hooter and there was no response.
Did anything else happen after that?
He then saw the next door neighbor on the right-hand side of the plot. He then inquired, well, from what he said to me, because I was in the car, he got out of the vehicle, he went and spoke to the gentleman there on the right-hand side of the plot, And the gentleman said that apparently not the owner of the house, the person that was looking after the house, had left to some taxi rank, as far as I can recall.
Yes. And where the car was it in front of the gate of the property?
No, it was parked on the side of the road.
And could you see inside the yard?
You could
of
see
the
inside
property?
because the whole of the front of the yard, you can see exactly what's going on. It's like an old square fence, all right, with the electric fence behind it. So you can see straight through.
Yes. And what happened after Mr. Mlambo spoke to the neighbor?
He said to me that we need to try and find the address of the premises, all right, which we then drove down the road because we couldn't distinguish any address on the premises right there. So I said, well, let's take a drive down the road. Maybe we can see what the board is, all right, because I couldn't remember what the street name was. We then got the street name, and then we went back to the premises. And then Mr. Mlambo said, let's have a chat to the guy. Maybe there's somebody at the other next door neighbor. All right. When he parked in front of the gate, there was a guy that was walking down towards him, and Mr. Mlambo asked him who the property belonged to. I could hear them because we were parked literally in front of that man's gate.
Yes.
And he had two big dogs there that were going wild mad.
And what did the man say in response to Mr. Mlambo?
He just said that Mr. Mti is not at home.
This was in response to Mr. Mlambo's question as to who the property belonged to.
That's correct.
What then happened?
We then asked him what the address was, the number, we had gotten the street name, and he said, if I can recall, I think he said, well, my number is such and such, and this is the number that would follow thereafter. I don't want to obviously mention the numbers or the street names or anything like that.
Yes. And from the neighbor's house, what then happened?
Well, basically what happened was we then drove out of the neighbor's yard, and we were driving down, and we saw the actual address on a board. It was actually a log stump that was situated on the right-hand side of the property, which had the number and the street name and everything on it. So then Mr. Mlambo just took a photo of that, and...
Yes, and do you know whether Mr. Mlambo spoke to anyone relative to accessing the property?
Mr. Mlambo spoke to Mr. Mti himself.
Yes, and were you present when that telephonic discussion took
I cannot
place?
recall if he was standing outside the car in front of the gate or whether he was in the car.
And how did you know that he was speaking to Mr. Mti?
Because he told me that he'd spoken to Mr. Mti. And Mr. Mti had given him access to take photos of the premises.
Do you know whether he gave him permission to enter the premises?
I don't recall that.
Yes. What then happened after that call?
We then entered the premises. I stayed in the car. And Mr. Mlambo then proceeded to take photos of the premises.
Had you pointed out the equipment to Mr. Mlambo?
I'd pointed it out to him outside already with the electric fence, and I explained to him how the electric fence ran down the right-hand side of the property and how it ran down the left-hand side of the property, and I also explained to him the lighting that was on the house.
Yes. And you said that the property was enclosed with fencing.
It was.
And so you could see into the yard?
Sorry?
You could see into the yard
You
of the
could see
property?
into the yard, yes.
Yes. And did you see the pictures that Mr. Mlambo took?
He only showed me the picture of the Energizer because he had asked me where the Energizer was situated. I explained to him it's a double garage, and I said to him on the left-hand side, all right, if he goes into the garage, he will find the Energizer on the wall on the left-hand side of the garage.
And which of these two garages did you say the Energizer would be situated?
On the left-hand side.
The garage on the left?
That's correct.
And you're saying that the only images you saw were in respect of the Energizer?
The Energizer. He said to me, this is the piece of equipment that I found, because he said to me that he saw a piece of electronic equipment there, but he wasn't sure if it... And I said to him, no, that's the Energizer that was installed.
And from your recollection, when you installed what you call an Energizer, was there any other equipment in the garage?
I wasn't in the garage. I never saw what was in there.
You say that the Energizer was on the left side of the garage?
That's correct.
Where about?
On the wall.
On the wall. Can you then turn with me to page 13 of Exhibit T11? That is annexure TPM 5. Do you recognize what appears on that page?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the gate on the left-hand side, which was open. Do you want me to say more?
Yes, please.
The house is in the front there, and on the left-hand side is the garage where the energizer is installed. And you can see there's a double, you can see there's a double garage there, and it's the left-hand garage on the left-hand side of the wall that the energizer is installed.
Yes. And from this image that appears on page 13, is there anything that you had pointed out to Mr. Mlambo?
Nothing. I hadn't seen this image. Like I said, the only image that I had seen, Chair, was the image of the energizer from Mr. Mlambo.
Yes. And is there any fence that appears on that page?
There is electric fencing on the gate and on the left-hand side, a little piece on the left-hand side there.
And did you point this out to Mr. Mlambo?
I did when we were outside.
Can you then turn to the following page, page 14 of the same exhibit? That is annexed to TPM6. Do you know what appears on that page?
Yes, it's the left-hand side of the property.
And is there anything on this page that you had pointed out to Mr. Mlambo?
The electric fence.
Can we then also turn to page 15, and that is annexed to TPM7. What appears on that page?
It's an LED light that we installed.
And this is what you pointed out.
That's correct.
Where is the LED light located?
It's on the front of the house on the right-hand side.
And on the page following, page 16, annexed to TPM8, do you know what appears there?
It's an LED light.
Is this the light that you had pointed out?
That's correct.
And where is this located?
This is on the left-hand side of the house at the front of the residence.
You earlier stated that the only picture that you had seen was the energizer itself.
That's correct.
Do you know whether Mr. Mlambo found it per your directions?
Well, he said to me when he came out, he said to me, is this the energizer? And I said to him, yes, that's the energizer.
And you had not gone into the garage?
I had not gone. I'd been in the car the whole time.
Why not? Why did you not go into the garage?
Well, I didn't want to influence his... I wanted to be independent, if you understand, Chair. I didn't want to say to him, okay, let me take you.
Yeah.
I wanted him to go and see for himself.
Yeah.
And then exactly like when I took him to the residences, I said to him, I don't know what the address is, I don't know what the street number is, I don't know what the street name is, but I can take you to the address. And I wanted to take him there to show him that my recollection is of what he wanted out of me at the end of the day.
So you would tell him where he would find what, and you'll allow him to go
to carry on.
Report back whether he found it.
That's
where
correct.
you said he would find it.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Can you turn to page 17 of Exhibit T11? That is annexed to TPM9. What appears on that page?
It is the electric fence energizer.
And where is this energizer located?
It's located in the left-hand side of the garage on the wall.
And the page following, page 18, annexed to TPM10. What appears on that page?
It is the same energizer.
And from what angle is that picture taken?
Sorry?
From what angle is that picture taken?
From the front.
And the page following, page 19, annexed to TPM11. What appears on that page?
It's an MTEC sticker that doesn't have any serial numbers or anything on it.
Is there any distinguishing feature on the device itself, as appears on these pictures from page 17 to 19, which would assist in confirming whether you had installed it or not?
Well, from my recollection, it hasn't moved, Chair. It's exactly where we installed it, and it's exactly the same piece of equipment that we had installed.
And did you install any similar energizers in other properties? Or was
Chair-
it the only one where you installed?
No, we'd also installed a similar energizer at Colchester for
Yes.
Mr. MT.
Yes.
We had installed it at, can I give you the names?
Yeah.
Mr. Smith's residence.
Yes.
We had installed it at Mr. Nair's residence and at Mr. McQueckler's residence
Yes. So-
and Mrs. Mayeni's residence.
So you know it quite well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you know if Mr. Mlambo had any discussion with anyone in relation to access into the garage?
From what I can recall, he spoke to Mr. Inti, and Mr. Inti gave him his brother's number.
Yes.
And I recall him having a conversation with his brother because he was actually sitting in the vehicle with me. And he spoke to the brother and he said he had been given access to the premises by Mr. Inti, and he'd like to have access to the garage. And as far as I can recall, the brother said, no, but the garage is locked. But otherwise you can have access to the garage.
And Mr. Mlambo then went into the garage.
Mr. Malambo
Textured.
said to me, let's just check, you know what I mean? And he got out of the vehicle and he checked and the garage was open.
And do you know if he ever spoke to anyone after that?
He spoke to the brother thereafter again, and he said, I just wanted to inform you that, well, while we were driving, he spoke to the brother and he said, I just want to inform you that the garage was open. So I took my photos and I have closed the garage, but you just need to check that. If you say that the garage is locked, just double check that to make sure that it is locked.
Yes. And did anything else take place at that property?
Nothing else.
So from what you understood, or the reports you got from Mr. Mlambo, Mr. MT seems to have cooperated.
Chair, I think he was a little bit, from what I understand from Mr. Mlambo, I think he was a little bit frustrated. But from what I could understand from Mr. Mlambo is that he said, okay, well, you can take your photos and do what you have to do, basically.
Okay.
And so he also got the same response from the brother at the
Yes.
end of the day.
Okay.
At paragraph 9 of your statement, you speak of another property. In whose property did you say this belonged to?
This is the property of Mr. Mantashe
And on what date was this visit?
on the 19th
Of February
of
2019.
February 2019. Sorry, Chair.
Can you recall approximately what time you left for the venue?
From my recollection, I think we left just before 8. It was just after 8, but it was just under 3.5 hours drive.
And had you informed Mr. Mlambo what equipment was installed at the property prior to you driving to the property?
I did on the way there. I told him what he would be finding at the premises, and I also explained to him if he got to the premises where he would find that equipment.
Yes. And what equipment did you inform him of?
The CCTV equipment and the perimeter lighting, Chair.
Are those the only equipments that you informed him of?
That's correct.
And how did you get to the property?
We drove from East London.
And what happened when you arrived at the property?
The gate was closed. Mr. Malambo blew the hooter. There was 2 gentlemen from my recollection that was working at the gate here, and then there's another gate here. They were working somewhere at the back there with I think with an implement of a tractor or something like that.
Are you saying there was a gate to your left as you
There's a gate.
stood in the street facing the house?
Basically, Chair, his property is the last property on that road. So you
Yes,
can't. So
yes.
there's a gate literally right in front of the property,
Yes.
and then I would say almost immediately to the left,
Yes.
there's another gate that
Yes.
enters the residence.
Yes.
But this gate here enters, like, I would say it's shepherds'
Yes.
quarters
Yeah.
that are at the back there.
Okay.
Yes. So you were telling the chair that when you arrived at the property, there were some gentlemen fixing something related
It
to
was
a tractor.
I'm not sure if they were fixing the tractor or the implement of a tractor. They were there at the back of the property.
Did you interact with these gentlemen?
I did not. I was in the car.
Did Mr. Mlambo interact with them?
He did.
And what do you know what was said?
I have no clue what he said because he was at the gate and I was sitting in the vehicle.
What then happened?
One of the gentlemen came up to him and escorted him into the other gate.
And where were you when he was being escorted?
I was in the car.
Do you know whether, before entering the premises, Mr. Mlambo spoke to anyone over the phone about the premises?
Mr. Mlambo made a phone call, I'm not sure to who, and I'm not sure if he left a message or anything like that, but I'm not sure who he made the phone call to. I can't recall the actual name of the person that he was trying to call.
Do you know what the call was about?
To gain entrance to the premises.
Yes. You say that you stayed in the car and Mr. Mlambo entered the premises.
That's correct.
Did you ever at any point enter the premises?
Mr. Mlambo then returned outside and he said to me, please come, I want to introduce you to a lady that's like a keeper of the house. And then I went in and he introduced me to her. And then he asked me, is this the equipment? And I said to him, yes, that's the equipment that we installed on the premises.
And do you know whether there was any interaction between Mr. Mlambo and the person you found at the property?
They were talking, I was standing one side.
So you don't know what was said?
I don't know what the conversation was about.
And do you know whether Mr. Mlambo eventually entered the premises?
He did.
And do you know whether he was given permission by anyone to enter the premises?
Well, from what I understood is the lady welcomed him and she said, you can take your videos and your photographs of what you need to, because he did present his card.
When you say from what you understand, is this what you heard or?
No, this is what Mr.
the
Mlambo told
interaction?
me afterwards.
I see. Did you?
And I mean, the way she was acting, Chair, I mean, if she didn't want him to have access to the house, she would have told him, no, you know what I'm trying to say. But she freely gave him access.
Yes. And did she enter with him?
She did.
And where were you?
I was outside the premises.
Yes. And outside the house, before Mr. Mlambo entered the premises, what equipment did you identify?
I identified the perimeter cameras for him and the outside lighting. He then asked me to again explain to him where the equipment was on the inside of the house. I said to him, well, if you go up the steps through the kitchen, you'll get a passage. You'll turn right into the passage. First door on your left-hand side is, when we done the installation, that was a spare bedroom. I said, you will find the equipment in there, the monitor and the CCTV equipment. And then if you proceed with the passage, you'll find the main bedroom and you'll find another monitor on the right-hand side wall, which has also got the cameras displayed on that monitor as well.
Now, the first monitor that you had described to him, where did you say it was located in the room?
The first monitor.
Yes.
It's on the bedroom on the left-hand side of the wall. The monitor is situated, I wouldn't say right at the top, but it's situated more to the top of the wall, and the equipment is situated in a grey lockable box cabinet, which is situated on the floor on the same left-hand wall.
And you also informed him of the second monitor, you say?
That's correct.
And where in that room did you say it was located?
I said to him, if you come into the main bedroom, on the right-hand side wall, I said it's situated on that wall.
And did you inform him of any other equipment inside the property?
Only of the lights and the CCTV, that's it.
Do you know whether Mr. Mlambo took pictures of these?
I saw him taking the videos and the pictures. I never saw them.
I thought you were outside. How did you see him take pictures?
No, I'm saying I saw him taking the pictures from the outside, but I didn't see him taking the pictures on the inside or the videos of the inside.
I see. Can you then turn with me to Annexure TPM 13, and that appears on page 20.
What exhibit are
Pardon
you
me.
on?
Exhibit TPM 14. Pardon me, Chair. And that is on page 30.
Are you on T11?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
T11.
Exhibit T11, what page?
Page 30.
Okay.
And I'm referring to Annex to TPM 14.
Yes.
Mr. Larue, do you know what appears on that page?
There's a camera and an LED light.
And where is the camera situated?
It is situated on the back side of the house. If you're standing at the back side of the house, on the left-hand side towards the shepherd's quarters.
At the back of the house.
That's correct.
Okay.
And what else did you point out that appears on that image?
It's only the LED light and the camera.
Is it mounted on the wall?
It's mounted on a log cabin.
Yes, okay.
And can you turn to the following page, still on Exhibit T11, page 31, and that is Annex to TPM 15. Can you tell the Chair what you understand to appear on that page?
On there.
I think he didn't hear you.
Annex to TPM 15
on there.
on page 31.
On there.
What appears on that
A
page?
camera and an LED light.
And where is this camera and LED light situated?
It's situated on the front side of the house, on the left-hand side.
And on the page following, page 32, Annex to TPM 16, can you describe to the Chair what appears there?
It's 2 cameras, Chair.
And where are these located?
If you look at the steps that I was talking about that are going up, it's situated above the kitchen, literally the kitchen door.
And on the page that follows, Exhibit TPM 16, on page 32, page 33, pardon me, and that's Exhibit TPM 17. What appears on that page?
It's a camera, Chair.
And where is that situated?
It's situated underneath the house.
When you say underneath the house, can you give a better description?
Well, it's a log cabin that's being built on stilts. So you've got the house at the top, and then there's like a storeroom at the bottom of the house.
Yes.
This camera was specifically installed to monitor that storeroom.
And can you walk underneath?
You can walk
That's
underneath,
fine.
yes.
And on page 34, Exhibit TPM 18, can you explain to the Chair what that is?
That's also a camera, Chair.
And where is this situated?
Also underneath the house.
And on page 35, Annex to TPM 19, what appears on that page?
It's also a camera.
And where is it located?
It's situated on the corner of the house.
Which side of the house?
It would be on the, if you're standing in front of the house, it'll be on the right-hand side of the house. Because that's where the water pipes are. It's close to the main bathroom.
And are the water pipes visible on that page?
That is correct.
On page 36, Annex to TPM 20, can you describe to the Chair what appears there?
It's a screen, Chair, with the cameras visible on the screen.
And are you able to say where the monitor is placed?
It's in the first bedroom on the left-hand side. That's the one that I was talking about that is closer to the roof of the premises. Because that's the curtains there and the windows right next to that.
And on the page following, at Annex to TPM 21, what appears on that page?
That is the screen, Chair, the same screen. The only thing that's added now is the actual equipment box that's mounted on the bottom left-hand corner of the floor.
And do you know where in the house this monitor and the box are located?
First bedroom on the left-hand side.
In respect of what appears at Annexure 20, TPM 20 and 21, are you able to tell the Chair what the difference is insofar as location of the monitor in the other bedroom that you said you had informed Mr. Mlambo of?
Well, in the main bedroom where the monitor is, reason why I'm saying I know for a fact this is definitely in the bedroom on the left-hand side, is because the monitor in the main bedroom is situated in the middle of the wall. As you walk in, there's a wall, and then there's a door that leads into the bathroom, then there's another piece of the wall. And that monitor we installed in the middle of that wall.
Yes. And when Mr. Mlambo was done inside the house, do you know whether he further interacted with the person he found at the property?
Yes, he did. He gave her his contact details, and she had a little book, a little black book that she had written all the contact details down, and his name and his number, and then she double-checked his card as well.
What then happened?
And then we left the premises.
So during the inspection, at no point did you enter the house?
I did not enter the house at all, no.
Paragraph 10 of your statement, you confirm that you are aware that Mr. Mlambo took pictures and videos of some of the properties. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And on the page following, at paragraph 11, you speak of another property that you visited.
We went to Carla after that.
Can you spell that, please?
C-A-L-A.
Please spell that.
C-A-L-A.
Yes, thank you. And
Let's Tala.
yes. And
That's how it's pronounced.
It's the Xhosa, the X.
yes. And can you recall when this inspection took place?
It was on the same day, Chair.
Being which day?
The 19th of February 2019.
Yes. And how did you get to the property?
We drove there, Chair.
And who gave directions insofar as the properties?
I gave the directions to Mr. Mlambo.
Yes. And did you arrive at the property as per your directions?
We did.
What happened when you arrived there?
Mr. Mlambo blew the hooter once again. Still, there was no answer at the premises. There was a gate which had a chain on it. I remember him distinctly knocking with the lock on the metal part of the gate, and there was still no answer. Then there was a pedestrian gate that he went through, because I think there's 2 or 3 rooms that are on the right-hand side of the property, Chair. I think, from my understanding, is he was going to go through and knock on the doors, which he did, and there was no answer at any of those doors.
What then happened?
Mr. Mlambo then proceeded to, well, from what I could see, either taking photos or a video of the equipment around the property.
Before he took these pictures, had you pointed out the equipment that is at the property?
Yes, from the car.
From the car?
Yes.
And what did you point out?
I pointed out one of the lights that was on the side of the house, and the other light that was on the left-hand side of the house, and the cameras on the front of the property.
Was there any equipment that you could not point out?
The only equipment that I could not point out to him was the equipment inside the house. But I had explained to him if he had access to the house, I'd explained to him how to get that equipment in the house.
And what equipment did you say was inside the house?
The monitor, basically what you see on TPM 21, that exact same equipment. It will be a monitor, a box with the equipment inside the box, and that's exactly the same as what you would find in that Carla residence.
Now, before Mr. Mlambo entered the premises, do you know whether he spoke to anyone?
He tried to make a phone call again. I'm not sure to who.
Do you know what the call would have been about?
To obviously gain access to the premises.
And did this phone call take place?
Nope. Nobody answered.
Did Mr. Mlambo leave a message?
I can't recall.
And this telephone call took place in your presence.
It was before we stepped out of the vehicle.
So when Mr. Mlambo entered the premises, this was following your pointing out,
It was, yes.
and you then saw him take pictures.
Pictures or a video, I just saw him busy with his phone.
Yes. And did he ever show you the pictures that he took?
He never.
Inside the house, you say that you informed him of a monitor.
A monitor and the box that was to be found in the one bedroom that it was installed into.
And where was this one bedroom located?
Inside the house.
Yes, but where?
If you go through the main door, there's a passage, and you literally walk down the passage and you walk straight into that bedroom.
So the bedroom is facing the passage, if I understand it correctly.
Well, at the end of the passage, you would walk straight into it. You'd walk past the kitchen on the right-hand side. You'd walk past like a dining room area, an open plan area, and then you'd walk straight into that bedroom. If you turned right, you'd continue then to the toilet, and then you'd turn left again into the same, into another passage, which led to a whole lot of other bedrooms on the left and the right.
Yes. And can you turn to page 38 of Exhibit T11? That is Annexure TPM 22. Can you describe to the chair what appears on that page?
It is an LED light and the camera.
And where are they situated?
This is situated on the right-hand side of the house, at the back of the house.
At the back of the house?
Not at the back, but at the back of the
right side?
The right side.
And on page 38, other than the camera and the LED light, is there anything else you had pointed to?
It's just a couple of houses at the back.
On page 39, Annexure TPM 23, can you explain to the chair what appears there?
It's an LED light.
And where is it situated?
This is situated on the left-hand side of the house, front of the house, Chair.
Is that the only equipment you pointed out?
On this picture, yes.
If you look closely on page 39, just below the LED light, there appears to be something mounted on the wall.
It's like a bracket.
Had you pointed that out to him?
No, it's not my bracket. Not what we installed.
On the page following, page 40, Annexure TPM 24, can you explain to the chair what that is?
It's a camera, Chair.
And where is it located?
It is situated on the left-hand side of the house, close to the front.
On the wall?
On the wall, Chair.
And is that the only equipment that you pointed out?
The camera, and then obviously just the piping.
And on page 41...
You did that piping as well?
Yes, we did, Chair.
Okay.
It's the piping that holds all the cables and the Cat 5 cabling and things like that.
Thank you.
On page 41, Annexure TPM 25, what appears there?
It's two cameras, Chair.
And where are these situated?
It's the camera on the left-hand side is the camera that is on TPM 24, and on TPM 25 on the right-hand side is the second camera. And it's at the front of the house.
And you say where are these two cameras facing?
The camera on the left is facing the main bedroom sliding door, and the camera on the right is facing the front of the open area of the house.
And the piping, was that also done by you?
That's correct.
On page 42, Annexure 26, TPM 26, what appears there?
It's two cameras, Chair.
And where are these located?
They're situated on the front of the house on the right-hand side.
And these cameras are not the same cameras on page TPM 41?
No.
And on page 43, annexed to TPM 27, what appears there?
These are 2 cameras as well,
And where are these situated?
at the back of the house and the side of the house.
Which side of the house?
Well, from what I can see here, I think it would be at the back left-hand corner, if I can recall.
After Mr. Mlambo had taken these pictures, what then happened?
We then left the premises.
And did he speak to anyone in relation to that
He
property?
did receive a phone call. I'm not sure from who, Chair. And all I can recall him saying is, I'll send you the SMS.
And did you know what the SMS would be about?
I have no idea, Chair.
Now, on paragraph 12 of your statement, you deal with yet another inspection. Where did this take place?
Richards Bay, Chair.
And in respect of whose property?
Dudu Mayeni.
Had you informed Mr. Mlambo before the inspection that it belongs to Ms. Mieni?
I did.
And had you informed Mr. Mlambo of what property, equipment rather, would be found at the property?
I did.
And what did you say would be found?
I said to him that he would find, if he had access to the house, a full alarm system, full electric fence, full CCTV, IP-based system with off-site capability, off-site monitoring capabilities on your phone.
And was there a particular day scheduled to inspect these premises?
Well, we arrived there on the 20th, and the scheduled appointment, which he was going to try and set up, was going to be for the 21st, as far as I can recall.
How did you travel to where the property is?
We went with the vehicle.
And where is this property situated?
If I
Sorry,
can-
went with the vehicle from where?
From the airport, Chair. We flew from, sorry, Chair, we flew
Yes.
from East London back to Joburg,
Yes.
and then from Joburg to Richards Bay.
Okay.
Yes, and you were going to tell the chair where the property is situated?
Do you want me to give the area?
Yes.
Well, maybe not the area. I think just like you dealt with it with regard to Mr. Mlambo. We know it
At
is in
paragraph-
Richards Bay.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
Richards Bay.
Yeah.
Thank you. What happened when you arrived on the day in Richards Bay?
We collected the vehicle, and there was still some time on hand. And I said to Mr. Mlambo, look, I need to just familiarize myself with the area again. I said, I know it's somewhere in that vicinity of close to the airport and close to the hotel that we were that we were staying at. And I said to him, would he mind if we just drove around for a little bit, just so I could familiarize myself, and I took him straight to the residence.
Yes. And were you able to identify the residence?
Yes, I was.
Did you observe anything when you arrived at the residence?
The cameras were still there, the electric fence was still up. There were still some beams on the garage. It's basically on a corner. And in my last statement, I said to you, on that corner there was a water feature just outside and if you turn left into the road that goes down towards the golf course, the garage area, I said to him, you'd find beams and that, and he could see the beams from the vehicle because we drove past. So
Yes. And do you know whether Mr. Mlambo took pictures?
no, he took no pictures.
He did not take
No.
pictures. What then happened once you had pointed out the equipment?
We then returned to the hotel that we were staying at.
And do you know whether Mr. Mlambo spoke to anyone in relation to that property?
He did speak to Miss Mieni that evening. I recall it because we were sitting having dinner, and he said to me, just please excuse me for 2 minutes, I just need to take this call. He needs to make this call. And he made a call, and the call went very well at the beginning. And then all of a sudden I just heard him apologizing, saying, sorry. And when I said to him afterwards, I said, what was that about? He says, no, I just got tackled a little bit because of the late phone call, and I mustn't disturb people. But at the beginning of the call, it was quite a friendly call until he gave his name. Until he said that he was from state capture. Then the call went a bit south.
Yes. And do you know how that call ended?
I just heard him say, I apologize and I'll send you an email. That's all I heard.
Do you know what the email was about?
I have no idea.
Earlier you said that you had scheduled the visit for the 21st of February,
That's correct.
2019. Did you return to the property?
We did basically return to the property, not to take photos or anything like that. Mr. Mlambo just wanted me to confirm that, or wanted to please himself that I knew exactly where the property was. And we drove past it, and he just had a look for a second time, and then we left. But he never took any photos or any videos of the premises, no.
Yes. And do you know whether Mr. Mlambo ever spoke to Ms. Myeni again?
I have no recollection.
Is there any reason you did not go and inspect the property as was planned?
All I believed is that he had to send her an email to gain access to the property. And from what I could understand is we never went to the property, or we never went into the property, so he obviously never got access to the property.
Yes. Now, in respect of the properties which you say belong to Mr. Mantashe, do you know whether Mr. Mlambo spoke
I'm
to...
sorry, before you go there, with regard to the property in Richards Bay, you say you were able to see from the street.
From the street, yes, Chair.
The equipment that could be seen from the street, and you identified it as the equipment that you had installed.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And you had installed some equipment inside the house as well, isn't it?
Well, Chair, inside the house would have been the big plasma screen.
Yes.
All right, to view the cameras,
Yes.
the digital recorder,
Yes.
the UPS,
Yes.
the alarm
Yes.
panel,
Yes.
the energizer which was installed in the garage,
Yes.
and the keypad for the alarm system would all be
Yes.
inside the house, yes.
So those you could not see on that occasion because you didn't go into the house.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes, but what you could see from the house you did recognize as the equipment that you had previously installed.
That's correct, Chair. You could only, you see, the thing is we installed equipment right around the house.
Yes,
So you
okay.
could only from the roadside see
Yes.
on the front of the house and
Yes.
on the, if you go down the road on the left-hand side of the house,
Yes.
only some of the equipment.
Yes.
But you could not see all of it now.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'm informed that it's just after 1. However, I think Mr. Larue has about 10 to 15 minutes of evidence to go.
That would cover what aspects?
It would cover the invoices that Mr. Mlambo attached to his affidavit, which he said he collected with Mr. Larue. And the invoices, according to Mr. Mlambo, were of the special projects team that
Do you need anything more from Mr. Larue in regard to that than simply confirming the identity of the persons who spent nights in the particular lodge?
No,
I don't
Chair.
think you need more than that. Because Mr. Mlambo didn't know the people. He said Mr. Larue told him what he told him. So I think that probably is all you need to confirm.
Yes, Chair.
Maybe deal with that. And you just tell me if there's something else I'm missing that you think it's important to confirm with him. But that seems to me to be the important thing. There's not going to be a dispute about whether those invoices are from that lodge and for those dates and in respect of people with those names.
Certainly, Chair. Mr. Larue, please turn to page 20 of Exhibit 11. That is annexed to...
Yes, you could also just mention the names of which appear and confirm whether in the special projects team there were people with those names.
Indeed, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Larue, annexure TPM 12 appears from page 20 to 28. On page 20, do you know who the guest, Mr. Huma Tsepo, is?
Yes, I do.
And who is he?
Sorry?
Who is he?
He used to work with me on special projects here. He was a technician.
And the date of the 2nd of December 2014, do you have any recollection of being at that particular lodge?
I do. It would have been for the residence at Elliot for Mr. Mantashe.
And on page 22, do you know who Bule Siduma is?
Yes, Chair. He also worked at special projects on the Mantashe project.
And this would be the same date as you?
That's correct.
As the visit. And on page 23 is an invoice with your details. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the date there of arrival is also November 2014.
That's correct. And it would have also been for only Mantashe's property.
Yes. And on page 24, the name Bule Siduma again appears. However, there the date is different. It's the 25th of September 2015.
Well, it would have been for maintenance on the Mantashe property.
Yes. And on the page following, page 25, is an invoice in relation to you, also dated the 25th of September 2016. And you say this would have been for Mr. Mantashe's property.
That's correct. And it would also be for maintenance.
Yes. And on page 26, the name there, Michael Ndo, appears. Who is he?
That's correct. He was also part of special projects, technician.
And he would have accompanied you, as the date is stated there, 25th of September 2016.
That's correct.
The page following, page 27. Who is Eugene Breedenkam?
He was also part of a technician for special projects.
And he also accompanied you on the 25th of September 2016.
That's correct.
And on the page following, page 28, the name there, Eugene Breedenkam and Tsepo Huma, appears, and you've confirmed that they were part of the special projects team.
That's correct.
And the date there is the 15th of February 2017.
That is correct. It would have been for maintenance.
At which property?
At the Elliot property. Elliot or Carla, one of the two, because the distance between the two is not so far.
And did you accompany these gentlemen?
I didn't accompany them on this trip, no. They went themselves.
And throughout all the invoices, the company Blake's Travel and the word there, AGENVY, appears on all the invoices.
That's correct.
Can you confirm the correct spelling of that company?
As far as I know, it's Blake's Travel. I don't know if it's PTY or LTD or CC. I know it as Blake's Travel.
Yes. Is there anything else you would like to bring to the attention of the Chair in respect of these inspections?
Chair, these invoices here only refer to Mr. Mantashe's residences.
Yes.
It doesn't refer to Mr. Imti's residences.
Okay.
Mr. Imti's residences, Mr. Malambu collected other invoices with regards to that.
Yes.
But that was a completely different team to what
Yes.
was here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Unless there are any other further questions from the Chair, that is the evidence of Mr. Larue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larue. You are excused.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We are going to take the lunch adjournment, and it's now about 9 minutes past 1. We will resume at 2:15. We adjourn.